Hello, everyone. Welcome back to this latest episode of Read a Classic Novel Together. I'm here, as always, with my great friend and colleague, Margaret Luongo.
Hi, everybody.
Margaret is a professor of creative writing at Miami University in Ohio. And this episode, we're going to talk about the first half of The Dispossessed by Ursula K. Guin, which I personally have been enjoying quite a bit. I don't know how you feel about it, Margaret.
Same for me. I don't read science fiction or fantasy. I'm not sure what category this book falls into exactly. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And in fact, it feels a lot like realism to me. You know, the world is built very realistically.
Yeah, I knew going in that, when people talk about literary science fiction, they usually mention Ursula K. Le Guin in the first sentence. She's, her, or, I don't know, Philip K. Dick and maybe Samuel R. Delany, one of those people. But she can really write. And as you say, she treats everything completely straight. It almost felt like, you remember reading A Portrait of the Artist as a young man when we were in Brandy's class.
Yep.
And, half the book is a flashback, a long flashback. Every other chapter is a flashback to the main character's past on his home world. And the other half of the book, the other chapters, are the current, the now of the book, where he is visiting the other world in that solar system. I guess Anaris is the world that he's from, and Eurus is the world that he is visiting. And that's a completely different story, because he's all grown up. He's a mature, famous person visiting this very strange other world that apparently no one from his planet has visited in like 100 and something years. So
I thought of Portrait too, and I think it was maybe the second chapter that starts us off in his childhood in Anaris. Right. And that was the chapter that I enjoyed the least. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to get through this. This is just laying some groundwork, and then we're going to move forward. And we did, and things got more interesting. But that was the one chapter so far that's just felt a little bit overlong. And but maybe it was, because it's the second chapter and the first one is, so momentous.
Right.
Maybe that's why it felt that way.
That's the chapter where his mom dies, right? And his dad leaves him in the orphanage or something, or whatever they call an orphanage.
The thing I most remember.
No, his mom doesn't die.
No, it's when the kids they lock one of them.
Yeah, they haze him.
Yes, yeah. But he's sort of willing, like, yeah, put me back in there. I want to see how I do. Yeah, so it's more of like all the kids together and their dynamic, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, it's that one's hazy for me too. It feels like that the flashback half of the book really gets going when he's like in college or whatever the equivalent is in this imagined world. He's very disillusioned with his teachers, especially that one creepy dude who takes credit for his work. And
yeah, he's a real obstacle, isn't he?
Yeah. I can't remember anybody's name in this book because they're so funky and weird. But
it's something like Sabul, Sabul. Sabul, yeah.
You've got a better memory, but
maybe.
The main character is Shevik. I can remember his name.
That is a memorable name.
Yes. And, just to remind everybody, he's like the most famous scientist on his planet. He's working on some incredibly breakthrough idea in physics that'll change, the way space travel happens and everything else. And, but he's from, Anaris, which is, I don't know, it reminds me kind of like Arizona. I mean, not that many people live out there. It's a big desert. and it's kind of provincial, but unlike Arizona, it's also kind of pseudo-communist, anarchist. They don't have a government. They don't have property. They don't have private property to speak of.
And they all have to work together and
Right.
cooperate to survive.
Right.
So there's this sense of being connected to something larger than yourself.
Right. And nobody's rich and nobody's poor. And
yeah.
Everybody does all the dirty jobs,
Uh-huh.
at least part of the time. And there's no hierarchy. Although with that Sabol guy, there clearly is some hierarchy.
Yeah,
at least in academia.
Oh, right. Yeah. Like it sounds like such an ideal system, but people are still people, and he's jealous.
Right. Yeah. People are still greedy and selfish or lazy or whatever. And the kids they're kind of sadistic, as kids want to be in that chapter. So I like how, like you, I admire how Le Guin has this vision of this kind of semi-utopian, commune in outer space on this moon that is smaller than the big world next door. But she sees that it's not perfect. It's not. I guess it's not a utopia if it's not perfect. But they live humbly, and as you say, the resources are so limited on this planet. There's so little land to grow food on that they have to share. And it's kind of cool.
Yeah. And they all suffer in the everyday ways of, maybe not having as much food as they want, or,
right.
And, as you said, maybe doing jobs that they don't want to do. But then maybe some of them suffer more depending on their personalities, like Shevek and his mate or partner, they want to stay together. And he loves the baby, but the circumstances require them to be apart. But if they didn't care about that, they didn't want to be together, then it wouldn't be a problem.
Right.
So it is interesting, like just surviving requires sacrifice.
Right. Yeah. And you kind of get the sense that Shevek is too good for his world even. He's too idealistic and noble, and that gets him into trouble, and he has trouble making friends because he wants to connect deeply with I read that, I don't know if it's true, but I read that Le Guin based him a little bit on Robert Oppenheimer, who apparently she knew as a kid. He was a friend of the family.
Wow.
Her parents were high-powered intellectuals on the West Coast somewheres. But yeah, and I kind of get that. When I read that, it kind of made sense. He's kind of a, I really like the scene where he and his girlfriend Tokfer or whatever, they decide to get together for real. And that's a very, poignant scene. That she's a lot like him, and they don't have a word for marriage, I guess, but they decide to make the life bond, or whatever the hell it is. It sounds like a bad episode of Star Trek sometimes, but it still really works. And let me read us that one paragraph just because I have it here. It's like, Tokfer did not laugh. She gave a whimper of laughter, as though it hurt. He tried to make out her face clearly. Behind her dark head, the sky was hard and clear. What's wrong with pleasure, Tokfer? Why don't you want it? Nothing's wrong with it, and I do want it, only I don't need it. And if I take what I don't need, I'll never get to what I do need. What is it you need? She looked down at the ground, scratching the surface of a rock outcrop with her fingernail. She said nothing. She leaned forward to pick a sprig of moonthorn, but did not take it, merely touched it, felt the furred stem and the fragile leaf. I thought that was pretty cool. That's a paragraph that any literary fiction writer could be proud of. So
yes.
So
such restraint.
Yes, and so vividly imagined.
The emotional, the interiority, which she doesn't state, you just get a glimpse. of
Right.
it, or all that means. Like it'll prevent me from getting what I need.
Yeah.
And the sharp details, the sky, the little plant that she reaches
Mhm.
for, really nice.
Yeah. I guess that's why the book won so many freaking awards, right? It won like the Hugo Award and the Nebula Award and a couple of awards I'd never heard of. And
Mhm.
you know, in 1974, I should say. I don't know if I already pointed that out.
Yeah.
This feels like a much more modern book. I mean, it must have really blown some people's minds back in 1974.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels perfectly contemporary to me too.
Yeah, that's what I meant, contemporary.
I would love to figure out a way to assign this to my students, but I don't really teach a class where that would make sense, unfortunately. But I love the way she balances, you know, emotional interiority with action. So
Yeah.
I guess because it's a bigger canvas, you know, when people are writing first novels, there tends to be a lot of action or I
Mhm.
should say young writers, you know, there's a
Mhm.
lot of gallivanting
Yeah.
and adventures. And
Mhm.
there's only what's needed and that wonderful sense of personal desire or conflict that goes
Mhm.
along with all that external doings.
Yeah, what did you think? I mean, you already talked about how that first flashback chapter, which is the
Mhm.
second chapter in the book, threw you. How do you feel about the whole alternating chapter
I
thing?
like it. I don't
Yeah.
have a problem with it. I mean, it's a nice, predictable structure.
Right.
And I think as he ages, it gets more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess we'll kind of meet, the stories will converge or something, or
Yeah.
the timelines will converge, I suppose. Um, but yeah, I think it's just a nice, tidy structure. I don't know.
Yeah.
How about you?
No, I really like it. I mean,
Mhm.
I feel like, you know, you still see novels like this sometimes. It's almost like an overused device these days, but I don't think so. Not even now. I mean,
Mhm.
some people just hate flashbacks of any kind, which
Mm.
they're overused in some books, that's for sure. Especially if they come at the wrong time, you know, if they
Mhm.
interrupt what you're really interested in. You just skip through those parts. But I didn't feel that was the case here.
You know, in some ways, this is a less intrusive way of doing it. You know, it's coming,
Right.
and, you know, we'll see why she thought that was important, you know.
Mhm.
But if she had introduced those flashbacks, tried to integrate it organically into the forward action of the story present, I think that
Mhm.
would have felt fake and more intrusive than
Yeah,
the way she did it,
definitely. I
you
mean,
know.
she would never be able to get as much in, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. And it would have
Sure.
definitely felt like an interruption.
Right.
But
So,
now you can sort of go back to the past and wonder, or think, you know, like maybe we'll see why it was so important to include all of this backstory. You know,
right.
what led him to this big decision. And yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and the book opens with him about to get on the rocket ship, right, to
Mhm.
go
Mhm.
to Urus.
Mhm.
I can never keep him straight. And I really liked how he's kind of almost seduced by Urus. I mean, it feels like if the world he's from is like Arizona, Urus is kind of like Southern California. It's kind of like La Jolla. It's just lush, you
Yeah.
know, highly populated, super rich, capitalist.
Mhm.
You know, not a utopia, that's for sure, because there's
Right.
a heavy class system, and women are basically chattel. But it's very productive. It makes beautiful cities, beautiful things. Everybody there is kind of beautiful,
Mhm.
like Southern California. And you know, um, but he go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, he quickly realizes that he's being kind of contained and
Yeah.
managed by his handlers there. I mean, they're very respectful of him, and they welcome him with, you know, feasts and parties and things because he's the first I guess he's already famous on this planet because his writing is renowned. His work, his scientific work is known.
Yeah.
But and also, I guess they're some secretly hoping to profit by his discoveries if he makes them while he's on this planet and they can grab him.
Yeah.
So there's a bit of a semi-sinister edge to it, you know.
Yeah, there's something I want to talk about there, but just going back to what you said about, you know, how he's seduced by the beauty of Uras when he sees it from the spaceship, and that whole description of it, it's you can feel his feelings, you know, like how, the longing and the just how you get a sense of how much he's been deprived of on Uras, how much they all have been. So he's basically looking at his natural habitat, like that's where he's meant to be, in that environment. So it feels like he's describing or reacting to seeing his real home or returning home. Yeah, that is naturally where he should be as an organism on that planet, not on that he's on. It is just some beautiful, beautiful writing in that section.
You're right. It feels like a novel from the turn of the century. It's like a Russian going home to, you know, to Russia or something after the revolution or something. Except it's the opposite case here. He's going from communist to, you know, super capitalist place. But yeah, I guess we haven't talked about, you know, well, Guin, she sets up this mythology of this prophet called Odo. Is that her name? She's a woman who has created this philosophy of, you know, communitarianism or whatever you want to call it. And as one would expect, she got banished from the planet immediately, and her followers had to go to the nasty desert world next door. So yeah, you're right. I'd forgotten about that moment when he's on the ship and he sees the planet. It is really cool. So yeah, I mean, it's like, again, she's really good at giving us this complexity in the character. You know, he's very idealistic, but he's also very tempted by the you know, the pleasures of this world, including some of the chicks. Apparently, it looks like he's starting to have a flirtation with one of the women. He finally meets a woman. I love that scene where he's talking to the guy who's one of his handlers. He says, you know, I'd like to see some women. He's like, sure, we can get you as many as you want. You know, he thinks he's asking for a concubine. He just wants to meet some women. There's no women around. He's never met any women. So he finally gets to meet some real women on this planet. Some of the, I guess, the wives of some of his friends. So, and he begins to have, you know, feelings for one of them, but that's in the next half of the book, I guess. So.
Yeah. Well, going back to that, what you were saying about that little sinister cast to the plot, the back of the book, the description is, it makes it sound really sinister, cloak and dagger. Shevik is attempting to find a new theory of time, but there are those who are jealous of his work and will do anything to block him. So he leaves his homeland, hoping to find a place of more liberty and tolerance. Initially fated, Shevik soon finds himself being used as a pawn in a deadly political game. Right. So I'm up to page 216, and I must have missed it. I haven't caught on to that.
Maybe it hasn't come out yet.
I guess it hasn't come out yet. But I mean, I do get the sense that people want to profit from this. Like, how can we make money? How it'll change travel and all of that stuff.
Right.
But I haven't come across the deadly part yet.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Well, I know you haven't read it because this is your first Le Guin book, but in The Left Hand of Darkness, it's a very similar kind of plot. You know, it's a traveler journeying to a new planet. It's actually in the same universe as this book, the Hainish cycle. So, and the traveler, the ambassador in that book, gets caught up in this big political upheaval, you know, and he has to flee with one of his friends out into the wilderness, and that's the rest of the book. So I have a feeling that he's going to have to flee, or Shevik's going to have to I mean, I stopped at the part where he finds a note in his coat, which you reminded me. And on Urus, it's not just a monolithic country. There are different countries. And I guess he's in one country called Alo, I think. And the other big country, I guess it's like two superpowers. The other superpower is Thu. And there's some kind of revolution happening in Thu. And I have a feeling he's going to get caught up. And he finds a note from somebody from Thu. And I have a feeling he's going to end up going to Thu before this book is through.
I was hoping you'd go there. Yeah, I didn't think of that. That sounds right. And
yeah, so
will he be able to get back to
we'll see what happens.
Arts? Yeah.
And I really like how Guin can do that. She gives you this big sweeping social thing, but most of the book is very personal and intimate and particular to his situation. But somehow that's the cool thing about science fiction. You can have weird things happening, unlikely things happening. And she's got him on another planet getting caught up in intrigue. So I'll cheat a little bit. I know that in all of these Hainish books, they communicate with each other with this faster than light technology. And the theory he's working on now is going to make that possible. So it's kind of like, a prequel to Star Trek, that kind of thing. We're seeing the early days of this universe, this imagined universe. But anyway, not that matters. But yeah, I'm really digging it. And, I have in my notes here that, I said one half of the book is like Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man. The other half is like Nixon Goes to China, because he's like, he's going to this very strange world, trying to open it up, but it's not going to open willingly.
Right.
But yeah, I highly recommend The Left Hand of Darkness too. So
I will get to that at some point. I am really enjoying this. Literary science fiction feels like the right label for it. We're going to do labels. Let's see. You haven't gotten to the party scene yet, I don't think.
No, I don't think I have.
Oh, it's so good. It's a real tonal shift. Because his parties back on Anaris are like little get-togethers in dorm or something. It's nice, but so this all of his comings and goings and Urus make me wish that a movie had been made of this. Maybe there has been a movie.
No, I don't think any of her books, except for one, have been made into a movie. Why
not? It's so visual. It would really make a great movie, I think.
I don't think, it's a good question. I don't think the average movie producer's probably smart enough to read the book and doesn't, but sorry, all you movie producers out there watching, but I take it back. I misspoke.
It would be really complicated, and it would require a big budget, I think.
Yeah, but her other book, The Lathe of Heaven, was made into a movie. I think a couple of times. And
really?
The first one is kind of a crazy low budget thing from the 70s, late 70s. It's actually pretty good.
Okay.
And I haven't seen the other one, but that's probably the book that most people read of hers.
Okay.
It's the trippiest and the most far out. But,
all right.
And she wrote straight up fantasy books, the Earthsea novels, like A Wizard of Earthsea, which is really good. I haven't read the others, but I think they're considered young adult, but they didn't feel young adult to me. They just felt, like a really good adult fantasy novel. But so maybe, if you're ever thinking about getting some of your students to read something, that might be a good one too.
Okay.
So
I'll have to poll them to see if they've read her.
Right.
We just had friends visiting from DC, and one of them, he's probably about 10 years younger than I am, grew up in Kentucky, and I told him I was reading Ursula K. Le Guin for the first time, and he said, what what were you doing in high school or middle school or something like that? And it was like, well, reading other things.
Yeah, no, she used to be really popular with the nerds back in the day, and still is, I think. But yeah, but I'm looking forward to this party scene you've described now. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to the whole second half of the book.
Mhm.
So
It's very, very memorable. Yeah, I'll have to poll the students and see how many of them have read Le Guin. And I won't get to do that until late August, early September. So I'll have to report later
right.
how many of them have actually heard of her and read her. Maybe
Well, cool,
it's
yeah.
yeah.
She I mentioned Samuel R. Delaney. They were, coming up about the same time. And he wrote a book that is kind of a response to this book, I believe, called Triton. And I actually read it long before I read any of Le Guin's books. He's a really cool writer. He's a little crazy, but he's a really fine writer. Still around. I think he teaches at Columbia, or he's one of our elder statesmen of.
Okay.
He's really cool. But like I said, he went a little off the rails. But still can really write.
Maybe we'll
talk.
Oh, go ahead. Have you read any N.K. Jemisin?
No, I don't know who that is.
She's a Black science fiction, maybe fantasy writer as well. And I think that I have a collection of her short stories, some of which are exploratory writings to see if the premise could be made into a novel. So she'll explore it a little in a short story, which I think is a really cool exercise. And smart. Like, am I interested in this enough to write a whole novel about it? Is there enough there? But I think one of the short stories that I wrote was in response to this book, possibly The Dispossessed, or the other one, the Left Hand of Darkness.
Left Hand of Darkness, yeah.
And it's called The Ones Who Stayed. I think I could be wrong, but I think that's a response to this story. It doesn't seem like the world of Urus, though. So I'll have to go back and check that out too.
Yeah, Delaney is also Black, so a lot of great African American writers in sci-fi the past 50 years. Octavia Butler, who I've never read, but yeah. So, well, cool. Well, we got a lot to talk about.
And just to plug a new fantasy writer who's also Black, Megan Giddings. Her first book is coming out now, I think. I mean, her third book is coming out now, a novel, and I can't remember the name of it, but I've read her first two. And it's not like high fantasy. And yeah, I don't know if she considers it like speculative fiction, or maybe that's what it is. But anyway, another contemporary Black writer kind of writing in that vein.
All right. Well, send me a link. I'll try to put all this in the notes for this video when I upload it to great fanfare, and we all make huge amounts of money.
Okay.
Maybe I'll even put the little link boxes up here in the upper right.
Oh yeah, we can add to it as we talk. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's super fancy.
Why not? It's free.
Well, since you've moved up in your Central Park adjacent, gotta raise the bar on your presentation.
Yeah. There's the empty billionaire tower right there. So it's all investment properties. There is one in Manhattan. That's
that's
it's
a
the really skinny one. It looks like a pencil. Who wouldn't want to live there, right?
Oh, right.
But no, it's supposed to be like 40% empty or 50%. It's like Russian oligarchs own half the. Yeah, I apologize to all the Russian oligarchs out there.
Listening,
yeah. But anyway, I still love Manhattan. That's that's for another video to talk about. We'll have one of these videos. We'll have to meet in Manhattan.
Oh, that would be so fun. Let's definitely do that.
Yeah, we'll have it.
I immediately,
One
that would be really fun. I immediately thought of rats. Because of the writing that I've been doing lately, there's a rat features in one of the essays. And I think it might be Bloomsbury. I'm sure I'm probably wrong. They do this book series. I think it's called Objects or something. And so like there's a book about pencils, or, you know, a book about sidewalks. They're literary, very small, skinny.
Right.
I feel like somebody should do that with city rats, specifically city rats, because they are remarkable creatures.
They are. They're their own genus, right? Like Rattus Manhattanus or something, you know? They're indestructible. I saw one. Wait, Kathy and I saw one in Manhattan.
Did you? Was it big?
You know, a supermarket. Yeah, it was like a dachshund. Yeah, it was like ginormous.
In a supermarket?
Yeah, not in the subway. The subways are fine. It was in a you know, skirting from one hole to the other. It was one of those supermarkets where you go in it's a bodega, but you go in and then there's an elevator and you go down and there's like a Safeway down there. It's like 8 million things, which is great. I'm not complaining, but and there was also, you know, you got to coexist a lot of different things in Manhattan, and
you do. Rats,
you know, gotta live. So, you know, I think it's a good idea. Book about the rats.
Love it. Well, you know, my rat encounters in DC, I got used to the idea of them being quite large and plump, like this big. So I was in Boston and I was waiting for the T, and on the tracks, I saw all these little swirling gray bodies, kind of tiny. And I thought, oh my gosh, how cute. Look at those mice. And I got together with the friend I was visiting, and she was like, those are not mice. Those are rats. And I said, but they're so small. They can't possibly be rats. Yeah, they're so cute.
That's how they lure you in. You think they're all cute, and then you go to try to pet one, and you're never seen again. You know?
Right.
You're a statistic at that point.
You're 6
you won't
months
catch me trying to pet
them for the rat commune.
Right. That's no. I mean, I had never, when I was there. Kathy and I were there in May. We went to Grand Central Station, which is amazing. I've been there before, but I've been in the huge main terminal part. But, you know, this time we went down, down to some of the tunnels that go to the train platforms. And I had no idea it goes on for like miles and miles under there. It's like, the whole city of New York could hide there, like an alien attack or something, just in the tunnels under Grand Central Station. That was pretty cool. So who knows what's growing down there? That's where I'm going with this. I mean, it could be like super rat.
Right. I wonder if people live down there.
I would not be surprised at all.
Right.
So, I mean, how would anybody police that whole thing?
And would you want to? Like, no, that's its own world.
A statistic, yeah.
Another
cop. Where's Ed? Oh, well, you haven't seen him in a couple of days. So, but anyway, I guess we should end this video. We're getting a little far afield.
Yeah,
just a little. Not too
we
much.
could link it back. So he's gonna be moving around out and about in Urus more. So see if you detect any signs of urban rat life. I don't recall. But,
we'll test the synchronicity of this sudden intrusion of rats. If there's a rat in this book, I will be sure to note it, and we can talk about it, and I'll be impressed.
Good. Right, the verisimilitude.
And your psychic ability to know to make the synchronicity connection. But even if there are no rats, I'm sure it'll still be a really good second half of the book.
Oh yeah, I think so too.
We shouldn't make it contingent on your rat.
Even if she doesn't mention the rats, it's a city. We know there are rats.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, they hide things so well on Urus. I love how she talks about how they gift wrap everything. Everything is wrapped in this
Oh yeah.
And like layers and layers of packaging, and then at some point, he's with that woman and she gives him something to take and she wraps it like, it's like another example. It was just great how Le Guin brings that back. I thought it was funny.
And yet the
But
women are topless.
are they topless?
And
Oh yeah,
yes,
I know they're bald. Are they also?
they're bald. Yeah, maybe
Oh.
it's only for parties that they're. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
So again, like Southern California, we're
I
back
could
to La
right. I
Jolla.
could
It's
be
like a pool
remembering.
party. Yeah. Okay, well, cool.
Yeah.
It's good to know.
Yeah.
All right. All right, Margaret. We'll meet same time, same place.
Okay.
Back here.
Great. Back there in Central Park.
Yep.
And I'll send you the link to Megan Gidding's site.
All right. Sounds
okay.
good.
Good talking with you, Ash.
You too, Margaret. Hang in there.
You too. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.